Welcome and thanks for joining. Today we'll be talking about the Cloud Management Assessment and how it can show the comprehensive value of vRealize operations in just a short amount of time. We're going to be talking today why we should move to assessment selling with cloud management, why we should transition away from the VOA to the new CMA, so going from the old to the new. And then we'll take a deep dive of the Cloud Management Assessment through slides and a demo at the end as well. First of all, let's talk about why assessment selling and why this is important. We've shown over the past 6 or 7 years, we have that much data from the vSphere optimization assessment, that we're able to close deals much quicker using assessment selling. We can show the value of vRealize operations in this case in a matter of days or minutes and not a month or 2 month long proof of concept. So we're really speeding up the velocity here by using assessment selling. And we've also been able to show with this data that assessment-led deals are on average about 2 times larger than non-VOA deals. So we can use assessment selling then to get a quicker close, as well as to increase the size of or the average size of our deals. As far as the vSphere optimization assessment, I just want to briefly touch on what that was. It's technically been deprecated, although it is still in the product, so it can still be used at the moment. That will be taken out at a future later release. We have not determined exactly when that's going to be, so it is still available at the moment, but it is showing as deprecated. And this was a powerful check. We go through and check on the health and the risk and the efficiency of our vSphere deployments. And we have done quite a few thousands of these over the past 6 or 7 years when it was introduced. This did show value across a 30-day window. There were multiple checkpoints that we had to go through, so it was a little bit lengthy when we're talking about assessments here. We've changed some things around with the new cloud management assessment that we're talking about today, and we'll go through why we think that's a good change and what's different here. First of all, as I mentioned, the vSphere optimization assessment was a powerful check on vSphere deployments, but we're having different discussions now. We're having discussions across multiple SDDCs, hybrid clouds, public clouds, and we're having these different discussions. It's no longer just based on vSphere. And the vSphere optimization assessment was great at showing the health, risk, and efficiency of our vSphere deployments, but we've kind of moved a little bit beyond that. We're having different discussions now. Our customers have different challenges, and we need to be able to have the flexibility to change with our customers. So now we need to talk now about increasing demand, being able to scale, optimizing efficiency, and still reducing our risk, but it's not just vSphere risk anymore. We're looking at across multiple clouds. We have these multi-cloud environments that we need to talk about. And that's why we created the Cloud Management Assessment. Now this has a little bit more of a fuller, broader scope as we go through it. Rather than only focused on vSphere, we'll see in a moment here that there's a multitude of different topics we can discuss. This is still part of vRealize operations. It is in every version of the product. There is no special key. There's no special installation. We need to have it is just part of vRealize operations. So this is more, the cloud management assessment is more dashboard focused rather than being report focused. We kind of wanted to make this a little more interactive with our customers. So rather than let's print out some reports and then go talk about these reports, we want to keep the customers there in the product in vRealize operations, so we can show the value right there in the product. There's no need to switch away and discuss specific reports. This does also reference other products when it can. So any references to vRealize Network Insight, to automation, to vRealize AI. Go through when we have opportunities to present those. We'll switch over and look at those integrations that might come into vRealize operations and how that could help the customer with broader data, more data, to help us make any sort of business critical decisions. Again, we're looking for ease of use here. We didn't want to have so many checkpoints as the older VOA reports did. We wanted to be able to show that value quicker in minutes and or days in some cases, rather than have that full 30 days with numerous checkpoints as we go through. And there are quite a few different instructions we go through, different talking points, and links for more information as we go through on different topics that we maybe aren't covered in the cloud management assessment, or maybe deeper focus on those topics that we don't want to get into with the cloud management assessment. So we did break this down, as I mentioned, as a fuller, a broader scope here, rather than vSphere only. Now the Cloud Management Assessment has vSphere and the VMware Cloud Foundation section. So we're still including vSphere here. It's just not only vSphere any longer. There is a section then for hybrid cloud with VMware Cloud AWS or VMC, section on vRealize Cloud Universal, our public clouds, extensibility or other things we can add into vRealize operations, as well as Horizon. So each of those kind of high-level topics have then multiple modules within them. So we can see these are all the modules that go along with each of those topics, and each of the things we can dive into as of now. Now we did also break these modules up because there's a lot of modules here, and we broke those into three different categories. There is a planning section, so maybe if we're looking to do some sort of migration either to VCF or VMC or public cloud, anything like that. There is a manage section, so this is we have the thing we're talking about, whether we already have made a migration to VCF or we already had VCF, or to VMC and AWS. Once we already have that, then we can learn to manage it. And then there's a learn more section, and this will be again, we can launch to different parts, different sections of vRealize operations, or potentially to documentation or to a Pathfinder. And Pathfinder is something we'll talk about a little more here in a few minutes. So if we color those same modules we were looking at before, we color those in, we can see that there is those planet sections in green, we have the manage sections in purple, and then learn more about it in yellow. So just from a high-level perspective, this is a little bit about what we'll see when we launch into the Cloud Management Assessment. And of course, I will go deeper a little bit here when we jump into a demo. But this is just the portions of it, or the sections of it. We can see across the top, that first bubble across the top here, we're talking about VMware Cloud Foundation. And we can see some of those icons across there that have those modules that we looked at in the previous slide. And there are some we aren't looking at right now that we can't see, but those have been condensed. But right now we're just looking, it looks like capacity, and this will go through then underneath, we'll go through the capabilities that vRealize Operations has. Then on the right side, we can see there's a link to a dashboard, as well as a learn more link that will take us to Pathfinder, or again to documentation, wherever it might be. And then below in that bottom section then, that are condensed at the moment, are collapsed, we can see our other topics we're talking about: VMC, VRCU, our public cloud, and so on and so forth. So this then has different functions we can do depending on the subsection we're talking about. So in this case, we're looking at VCF. We can look at we know we're looking at the customer's on-prem environment, since we're doing like a pre-VCF a kind of assessment or planning for a migration to VCF. So we can kind of learn a little bit about the customer's infrastructure before we decide to go ahead and actually make the move to VCF. Once we have made that move, kind of the green box here, we then have all of the sections that we can look through to do any sort of validation, our day 2 operations, simplified discussions by having targeted discussions rather than lengthy discussions that about something that a customer might not care about. On the same token, on with VMC, we kind of again have that planning and then the managing, so we can do our pre-VMC migration assessment. So again, we're looking at kind of the on-prem environment. And with the same situation, we want to understand a little bit more about the customer's environment first, look at any sort of outliers or challenges we might have before we do any sort of migration, move everything over then to VMC. And then we have our validation, and there's even a specific performance validation dashboard where we can look at our pre-migration statistics as well as our post-migration stats as well. Just for a little bit of reference, again, we'll jump into this a little deeper when we get into a demo, but there is 3 different sections or 3 different widgets of each dashboard that we'll look at that are universal across all of the dashboards within the Cloud Management Assessment. Now, the first one is going to be the prerequisites at the very top, and this is what is going to be needed in order to see data coming into any of these dashboards. They can be pretty simple. Most of them are pretty simple. In this case, we're looking at one just all we need to do to get our capacity, and that's with this dashboard. We need to connect a vSphere cloud account. So it's pretty simple. If a customer is doing a trial of virtualized operations, they probably already have that done anyway, meaning the data should be showing up. The second widget down is going to be kind of about this dashboard, meaning what is it showing, what is it doing, where are we getting this data, and what is the important takeaways take away from a specific dashboard. Why is it important? The third universal widget is going to be on the left-hand side. That's the bottom left, and that's going to be sort of a help widget. So if we're looking through at these other widgets in the dashboards and we don't know exactly what the dashboard is trying to show us, we can go and look at that help widget, and it'll give us a little bit of a breakdown for what it is that we're looking at. And those, each paragraph will correspond to a widget title, so we know which one we're trying to find if we're going to utilize that help widget. Moving over to Pathfinder, again, this is just for reference. I'll dive a little deeper into it here in a moment. And this slide is actually the right-hand slide of it. The Pathfinder has changed the UI a little bit to look a little different, so we'll see that change from the slide, but it'll become a little bit more clearer once we jump into Pathfinder. So on the left side is all of the, well, not all of the different paths, but some of the paths that we have out on Pathfinder. And a path is a specific topic. And within a path, there are going to be different sections. And that's what I wanted to look at this on the right-hand side of the slide. There are different steps that go along with each of the paths in Pathfinder. And each of the sections then are kind of have the idea of a crawl, walk, run approach. So the step 1 is always going to be an overview of the topic at hand. Then the step 2 is going to be a little bit more information, a little bit deeper dive into it. Still not too deep, not too technical, but the overall overview of a specific topic, so we know what it is we're talking about. We can understand the terms that we're going to be discussing further into step 3. And step 3 is going to be a deep dive. So that's going to be more of we have all of the overall concepts, we have the terms we're going to be using, we understand all of those. Now what can I do with those, and how what are the best practices there for moving forward with that specific topic. Step 4 is going to be more of your hands-on. So the last section is going to be contain offline demos, could contain links for trials if that's something the customer might be interested in, whether that be trials of virtualized operations or potentially True Visibility Suite, something like that. But it'll have different links and different things we can try out there as well. Did want to point out that there is a hands-on lab that is out there. So that hands-on lab goes through the Cloud Management Assessment. Here is the link that is on there. You can either copy that down, or if you have the deck, the link should work directly to that hands-on lab. So let's go ahead and we'll jump into virtualized operations now and get into a quick demo, just kind of how the Cloud Management Assessment works and how to move around between different topics. All right, so we're in vRealize Operations, just at the home page here. So we can see our 4 pillars. We've got performance, capacity, troubleshooting, and configuration. And if I go ahead and scroll down here, we can see at the very bottom is run our assessments. Now, as I mentioned, there is the vSphere optimization assessment is still listed here, but it is listed as deprecated. We didn't want to take this out as of yet in these releases, as some people are still going through these vSphere optimization assessments, and we wanted to leave those reports there. But right above that, then we can see the cloud management assessment is right here, and if I click on that link, it'll take us to the landing page. Now, previous versions of the cloud management assessment did have kind of all of our icons, as we'll see in a minute, all on one screen, without any sort of collapsibility, which we have now. Here's our sections, one for vSphere and VCF, or VMware Cloud Foundation, one for hybrid cloud with VMware Cloud and AWS, or VMC and AWS, one for vRealize Cloud Universal, public cloud, extensibility, and horizon. And we'll notice any of these sections, of these modules at the top level here, I can click on those and expand out all of these sub-modules with below it. So we can see we have a plan section, a manage section, and a learn more section, just like in the slides that we looked at. And if we click on any of these icons, then it comes up with the capabilities that vRealize Operations can give for that particular topic, in this case right sizing, which is going to tell us all of the capabilities we can do to look at and identify our oversized or undersized VMs in order to take action to optimize our efficiency there. And then we'll notice there are some things here that then have launch dashboard, so we can launch into a dashboard, something like right sizing or application grouping. And some things here, like what I just clicked on, the automation, have a learn more button. So not everything has a dashboard here. And if we go to something like extensibility, most of these icons are going to have these learn more buttons. And learn more, if we click on those buttons, as we talked about earlier, we'll launch into Pathfinder. Now here's that update that I was mentioning, as far as it might look a little different from this slide that we were looking at, because we rather than just have all of our different activities for each individual path listed out on one page, we now have our sections that we can go to. And as we mentioned again as well, we have that crawl, walk, run approach. We've got an overview, in this case, of the vRealize True Visibility Suite. So overview goes through articles, blog posts, an overview video, case studies. If we go down further, we can get some videos of some of the Magento packs that go along with the True Visibility Suite. As we go down again, we've got a VMworld session that just goes through what we can do once we have these Magento packs installed, kind of make some custom dashboards and what we can do with all of the relationships that get created automatically. And then step 4, then we have some offline demos, we have links to the evaluation center, so on and so forth. And there's all kinds of things here in Pathfinder. If we didn't mention before, there's a bunch of different paths in here for all different kinds of things. We can look through and go in, explore SD-WAN and VeloCloud. We can do Carbon Black. We can look through at vRealize Network Insight, vRealize Log Insight. So there's a lot of different things we can do. We can search that by all of our paths, or we can search just by individual activities. We could also go and just look for anything with hands-on labs, or with offline demos, or only videos. So there's lots of things we can do here. Place that I send a lot of our customers to, as well as, even if we want to go ahead and go here ourselves to maybe learn about a product or a solution that we don't maybe have a whole lot of knowledge about, we can always go here, use that crawl, walk, run approach, and really start to learn about things and dive down a little bit, at least so we can have a little bit of knowledge about all of our products. So back into vRealize Operations here. Again, that was just these learn more buttons. You'll notice on all of these different icons that we can go through and check and see, go to learn more about this particular topic. So let's go ahead and let's run through maybe a few of these dashboards just to show how they work again. I know we've explained those a little bit already previously, but there's a couple things to point out that might be worthwhile to look at. So again, here's our prerequisite widget at the top, one of our 3 universal widgets. In this case, we need to connect a vSphere account in order to see data here. If we don't have any data coming in, we'll know that we probably haven't connected our vSphere account. Always check those prerequisites if we notice something's missing. And then our About the dashboard, the second of the 3 universal widgets. And we'll go through, again, why is this important and what are we hoping to learn from this dashboard, as well as have any sort of other links that might be helpful. So in this case, we can go to the documentation for capacity analytics, so how we calculate all of our capacity metrics, as well as details on the capacity analytics engine there. There's also a link here to a blog post that was written by Brandon Gordon. Goes through why right-sizing our VMs is important and the best practices surrounding that right-sizing of our VMs. So very helpful links there if we're looking to learn more about right-sizing. So if we scroll down, we again see that on our help widget here on the left, we'll describe everything that we're looking at. So if we're looking at select an undersized VM, well, that's pretty self-explanatory, but in some of the other dashboards, it might not be so easy to understand what it is we're looking at, but the links will always go, or the widget titles will always go with one of the paragraphs on the far left again, and we can see what it is that we're trying to garner from that particular widget. So in this case, we're looking at our undersized VMs, and gives us then kind of a graphical nature of the percentage of our VMs out of the total that might be undersized at the moment. We get in the middle here, we get how much CPU to add, how much memory we think we should add, and so on and so forth. If we go down, oversized, same kind of thing. Things we can remove. For example, this VM is 8 vCPU configured, but vRealize Operations says we could do with 4, and that would still probably be okay. And then there are percentage of oversized out of the total VMs we have here in our environment. And we can look at, right now we're looking at our vSphere world, but we could go and look at data centers. We could narrow that down by cluster to really start looking through at which of our clusters or data centers might be oversized or undersized there. Now if we scroll down further, we get kind of a list here. We get a list of VMs, whether those be oversized or undersized. If we click on that particular VM, we're going to get our projected cost for the month, the configuration, what are the configuration of this particular VM, and then we can see down below some graphs here, and we can see whether or not our demand and our usage is reaching our total capacity, and whether we're below that recommended, or if we need to add or subtract anything on the CPU, and same thing with memory. If we need to add or subtract anything on the memory side, we can see how our utilization versus our recommended size is going there. So great for looking through, obviously, to make sure that we are optimized and making sure we're utilizing our resources accordingly. So that's great for that dashboard. Going back to our landing page, that was right sizing. Let's take a look at our costing dashboard here. Again, we click on vSphere or VCF cost. We get our capabilities of what we can do from vRealize Operations standpoint, and we can launch our dashboard into the actual dashboard here. So now there are a couple things or a couple of reasons that I wanted to bring up this dashboard. One is this prerequisite section, because we need to configure a vSphere account for data, but there's an extra step here. We do need to make sure we set a currency. That is important. We need to know what currency we're showing our values in. So this will have a link to how to access our global settings where we can set that currency. Now, the other reason I wanted to come here was there are a few things here, and this sentence is important. Now, most of the dashboards here we're looking at, we're going to start getting values here within a matter of minutes. I would say if we're doing this with a customer, we probably want to set up our trial of vRealize Operations, connect our whatever the various integrations we wanted to connect through, and then give it maybe a day or so to collect some data so that we can start looking through dashboards. Now, our cost dashboard here is going to take about a day to populate because there are some calculations that go on, or calculations that might only be done once per day, as well as some of these potential savings that we'd see here will take up to 7 days for our powered off and idle VMs. So this is one dashboard we probably want to give at least a week for, and it's the only exception I can think of offhand where we need to do so. Now, this also mentions, this particular dashboard mentions that we're using a built-in cost database, and it will go through and calculate what vRealize Operations thinks of the cost of our total cost of ownership, as well as our potential savings. And that's using that built-in reference database. If we wanted to make sure that these were more accurate, we could always set our own cost drivers. And so there are links here then it goes through and gets to the overview of our cost drivers in total, as well as how to edit those. So that's important if we wanted to get those accurate costs. Now in the About This Dashboard section, we also have, it tells us a little bit about what we're going to be looking at. And then some other dashboards here, some other links that we can have if we want to learn more about that particular topic. As we know, this is the cloud management assessment is designed to have these conversations with our customers and show the value of vRealize Operations, but it's not meant to be comprehensive any one of these topics. Meaning there's so much more costing information that is in vRealize Operations that we can possibly put into one dashboard, and so we're not intending to do so. So there are links here that will go into these other topics and have some dashboards if we wanted to dive deeper into a specific part of this dashboard. So this particular dashboard is going to show us then our total cost of ownership, how much we are spending per month at the moment, as well as our potential cost savings. So if we let this run, let vRealize Operations run for about 7 days or about a week so we can get this data to populate, I think this is a pretty powerful thing to go ahead and show off to customers, to executives. Say, just within a week, we can tell you, here's how much money you can save on a monthly basis. It's money we can be spent on other projects. In this case, we're looking at $14,000. That's quite a bit of a good chunk of change we could use to spend on other projects. Now, this then breaks it down a little further and says, all right, here's where that money is coming from powered off, idle VMs, any snapshots, as well as orphan disks. So we can kind of see our breakdown a little bit. And then a graph kind of showing that. So it looks like in our environment, we had previously some cost opportunities that we've taken advantage of, and now we're pretty low. We're getting lower anyway. So obviously that this particular graph we would want to be at zero. That would kind of be the goal, meaning we've taken advantage of every possible cost saving opportunity that we can or vRealize Operations will recommend, and we've optimized our resources as far as cost as much as possible. Now we can break that down, our costing here a little further. So we get our cost of our clusters, our data stores, and any sort of monthly direct cost, and then a graph showing that as well. So we can turn some of these off if we just wanted to see particular data centers, if we just want to look at a couple of those on that particular graph, or compare them to other data stores or data centers. We can certainly do that as well. And then further down, we can get our show back and charge back section here. And we've got some virtual machine folders we've got set up. And as we click our virtual machine folders, it's going to list off all the VMs in that folder. Will give us a month-to-date cost and projected cost for the folder, as well as then give us the cost distribution. We can find out if there's any one VM that it maybe is costing us a lot more on a monthly basis than the others in that particular group, or if they're all pretty average, remaining around the same, and as well as our potential savings for that particular folder. So we can look at, hey, is there one VM out there that is has the ability or potential to save a lot on, or if we're all pretty average on that. Again, our potential savings our goal is to get as low as possible, right? Because that means we've utilized that opportunity and lowered the cost of that particular VM. All right, let's go back to our landing page. Now we can see that there are some things here that are going to be similar to between our VMware Cloud Foundation and our hybrid cloud or VMC on AWS. Things like application grouping, things like costing and capacity, performance, vSAN and NSX. Those are pretty. Those are going to be the same regardless of whether we're on VCF or VMC. I should say the dashboards are going to be the same. The data might not be exactly the same, but the dashboards will be very familiar between the two sections. So if we jump in, let's look at here. Let's go with this application grouping to kind of see. This is meant as to be in the planning section in case we are planning some sort of a migration to VMware Cloud and AWS. Let's go ahead and launch this dashboard so we can take a look. Well, the reason I wanted to pick this dashboard as soon as it loads up, here we go, is that we have some additional options here in the prerequisites section. We have two sections, and these can be optional, whichever way we wanted to go. We have to do one of these two sections, but in order to get data. But which way we go is up to us. We can either connect our vSphere cloud account and then enable service discovery, because this is all about applications and services that are running, or we can configure vRealize Network Insight and configure that integration with vRealize Network Insight. And then Vera and I will go out and do a flow-based discovery, application discovery, something like that, and discover these applications for us and bring those in so we know all of the various pieces that go along with those business critical applications. So if we scroll down here, we're going to look at kind of what we're seeing. So right now we're clicked on just MySQL DB here on the right side, so it's our service types. And now we're going to see all of our VMs, all the services that go along with MySQL DB. So we know these are running some sort of flavor of MySQL. That way we know, if we are looking to plan some sort of migration, we would want to make sure we have all of these pieces accounted for before we do a migration. If we leave behind parts or leave behind VMs or services in our migrations, that could lead to our application outages, make our end users frustrated, not so happy, that kind of thing. And we can also search this then instead of by services, we could search it by applications themselves. So if I pick this shopping cart app, we can look and see our various tiers, and these were discovered again by vRealize Network Insight. Obviously we know that because it's got this little prefix before the application. We can see it's vRealize Network Insight, and there's a couple here that we have that are just native vRealize operations applications that we've possibly created on our own, or business applications that we've created on our own. But looking at our shopping cart app, we have our tiers, so we want to make sure we know these 4 VMs are part of our database tier, and the remaining 3 are going to be part of our web tier. And then we can see as we go our data stores, we can see all the services we're running. In this case, MySQL, and that same VM is part of our database tier. We already knew that because it's part of the DB tier. But we can see we've got some SSHD that's running there as well. So that's, again, just to make sure that we have all the pieces we need for an application when looking to do any sort of migration. And this dashboard will help us kind of do that, give us the relationships and map that out for us. If we go down further on our shopping cart app, we can see all of virtual machines again that are part of that application. So the same ones we were looking at above. Only now we can also get a little bit around right sizing as well. This isn't quite as in-depth as the right sizing dashboard, but it's letting us know, hey, this, for example, this VM we're looking at has 4 vCPU configured right now, and it's recommended we subtract 2 of those. Could probably be handled better, or could handle just fine on 2 vCPU on its own, or any sort of memory recommendations. We'll also then go into network information here, as guest OS, and whether we're thick or thin provisioned there. If we scroll down even further, we can then get some more statistics around our VMs that are part of this application. We can get CPU ready, memory contention, are we breaching any of the KPIs that we've set, are CPU ready, co-stop, contention, any sort of dropped packets on our network, as well as CPU usage and memory usage compared to our total capacity there. So great for, again, kind of calculating what parts or what pieces, what VMs, data stores, what services are running on those business critical applications that we have. So very powerful in that respect. All right, one more, I think we'll look at one more dashboard here as we go through. And that would be, let's go ahead and look at this performance validation dashboard. Now, whenever we're looking to make some sort of a migration, whether that be to, in this case, VMC, VMware Cloud, and AWS, we're really looking to make sure that our performance levels are either the same or better than what we had on our on-premises or whatever else we were using previously. And so this dashboard is a little bit in the planning section and a little bit in the manage section. It kind of straddles the line a little bit because what we're looking at here, we need to connect a vSphere account and a VMC cloud account. And what this is going to do is take a look at our pre-migration statistics and our post-migration statistics. Again, we want to make sure that we are running better, if not the same as what we were having, what we had before or prior. And so what we can do is take a look at if we've deleted some VMs and VMs have disappeared from Virla's operations. We'll be able to show that here in this column. Now, we don't always want to see only our VMs we've been deleting because we found some customers like to do some sort of migration, leave those VMs running just to do a comparison that way. And so originally, that was the way that we were looking at the cloud management assessment. Was we only wanted to see deleted VMs, but as we see now, we've got VMs in here that don't have a deletion time, meaning we're looking at all of our VMs that we have listed as well. So the way we want to use this particular dashboard is to go ahead and set a specific time range here of kind of our pre-migration, or when we have everything was still on-prem or on-premises environment, and then our post-migration will be current statistics running on VMC at the moment. Now, I think this is pretty powerful because it doesn't have to be just a migration dashboard. Let's say we wanted to, maybe we've bought some new hardware and we have some new servers and we want to see if those servers improve performance. Well, we can set our dates there as well. So it doesn't have to be a migration. We can go ahead and check and see before and after whether we've implemented this new hardware, or if we would just make some configuration changes, we can do that as well. We can make sure if we've implemented anything, we can use that specific time range. We can do something like an absolute time range and just change this maybe to 2 weeks prior and change that as well. So we can see our statistics as we go from 2 weeks prior to our current statistics there. Now, and if we click on any of these virtual machines as well, I'm not clicking the same one, but that would probably be the goal here. We'd choose the same virtual machine. Then we can go down. We can see there's a few different metrics we have here between CPU ready, disk latency, our dropped packets. But we can, if we choose VMs, now we can scroll down further and we get our full list of metrics we can do. We can look at. So if we want to look at contention, we can look at contention on one side, our pre side, and then bring up and look at contention on our post side. And so those will be then down below, and we can see if those if our metrics have improved either pre-migration or post-migration, or maybe just some hardware changes or configuration changes, and see if those have helped us improve performance of these particular VMs. So that's kind of the things I wanted to show off as far as dashboards are concerned. So that is all for today. Thanks for joining and watching and learning about the cloud management assessment. Hope you found this useful. Thanks again, and hope you have a great rest of your day.